Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 3 of What If Naruto Was told about the Uzumaki Clan from the beginning. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, stay in tune for a new episode of Anime King 2 and Anime King 3. If you're new, yes, you heard that perfectly clear. I indeed have 3 channels, Anime King, Anime King 2, and Anime King 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So 3 what ifs a day for you guys to sit back and relax and enjoy. So go over there and check them out and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. And yeah, without further ado, what if we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last spot we left off, as Jiraiya had made his way back to Konoha to talk to Tsunade. Tsunade was worried, as Naruto didn't seem like he was ready to come back home. Neither was Jiraiya as well, as he had been on the training ship for 2.5 years now. But Jiraiya just told Tsunade not to push anything. He would get him back home, he would just take a little longer. But Tsunade wanted to know what did Naruto think about the Uzumaki Clan rising, as Jiraiya told her that he wasn't much vocal on the Uzumaki side or on any other side. He just mostly stick to himself about the topic. As Tsunade was still a bit worried though. Danzo and the elders are also plotting something, as the elders and Danzo didn't really like the secret weapon out of the village. Yes, they wanted it back. They want it at Konoha, not out there roaming out of the village, as Danzo told them he had a plan. Meanwhile, at the hidden sand, as Naruto chose not to go and speak to the Sabukuna siblings, as Temari found him in a training field, she was surprised of his mastery over Wayne. As the both of them talked, she invited him for dinner. Gaara was happy to see Naruto that night as they spoke. After dinner, Gaara escorted Naruto back. As the both of them spoke, as Gaara told him that his change was because of him. As Naruto was truly impressed despite knowing that the people might never love you, Gaara still strived to make his village a better place, something that impressed Naruto. As Naruto continued his training there, as 3 weeks passed, Naruto attacked Temari without even giving her a signal, as enemies wouldn't wait to attack her. He was brutal, he was fast, and she rather enjoyed that because he wasn't like any others that was afraid to attack her because of who her family and her brother was. He did not hold back, something that she could actually show her real skills because she released a typhoon of wind with slicing blades, but he simply dodged it, as he was faster and more powerful than he let on. But Temari started to attract feelings for him as time went on. He had to leave. Temari had to go back to Konoha to inform them that Gaara was going to become the Kazekage. Yes, Baki had told him. And Naruto was going off as well, as the both of them spent a night alone in a camp. As Naruto usually spoke to her about improper things that made her blush a bit, but now he was not. He was calm, cool, and level-headed, as she never thought that the blonde at Konoha would change so much. Well, he was never one to be so much talkative, but now it was just so different, as she didn't want him to leave, but he had to, as the next morning he was gone, and a note was left behind for her. With that, she made her way towards Konoha, feeling her heart rattle a bit. At the hidden rain, the Uzumakis had asked for Itachi. The Uzumakis had been rather secretive ever since their rise once again. Konan had been the one to send out missions to whoever she seemed fit. After missions came in for the Akatsuki, the Estran criminal group, the Uzumakis have worked well with Nagato so far, and he didn't want to ruin anything, but they have been rather secretive since their rise back, as Nagato was unsure about everything, but one thing he knew, the Uzumakis were not going to fall again. So yeah guys, so it's basically that's where we left off. You guys can switch across and place Naruto for yourself. So let's begin this new episode. At the Hidden Leaf, Temari indulged a thought that Naruto was watching her the entire way to make sure she got to the leaf safely. Because she felt someone watching her, but she just couldn't pinpoint where the person was. But the moment she stepped inside the Hidden Leaf, the feeling was gone from the outside. But when she stepped inside though, the feelings of being watched were there, but the eyes were not friendly. Given her headband and the recent conflict between the Sand and Konoha, she could feel it. It made her rather uncomfortable. She really just wanted to get to her business and get away from the village. It seems that Baki had been right. There were forces that did not feel pleased with the upgoing events of everything just being calm after what they did. But at least no one was glaring at her. Then again, the Sand had really lost as well. Their leader, her father, had been murdered by Orochimaru. Temari wasn't that sad about it. Even so, if he had been alive, things would have been difficult. The leaf might have forced him to surrender. But since they knew that her father was dead, they were tricked into all of this. Perhaps that is the reason why they didn't go to the extremes. She glanced at the person beside her, the Nara she fought in Chunin exams. He was the one that welcomed her. He looked rather happy with the silence. You people are rather forgiving, she said. If she was able to walk freely here without being directly escorted towards the place that she was going by envoys, then her brother would be welcome to the village. Not everyone, said Shikamaru after thinking about it for a moment. I think they just realized it would be too bothersome. The whole grudges. The Sand did not cause the third's death. Orochimaru did. It is possible they're blaming everything on Orochimaru. Well, you got to have someone to blame for everything, she said. Well, in this case, it isn't exactly wrong, said Shikamaru. Temari nodded. Orochimaru was the one fighting the third, and he was the one that murdered her father. If there was someone to hate for the invasion, it was him. But the Sand still had some fault in it as well. As the rest of the walk was silent towards the tower. Thank you, Shikamaru, said Snazzy. I will call you if there's anything else. He nodded. As he left with that, Temari was amused. The way he did. It seemed like he was hoping that she did not call him back. Please, said Temari, said Snazzy. As she sat down, Snazzy really didn't have anything bad to say. After all, they had spoken to the Sand, and she really liked how things were progressing at the moment. She didn't want any bloodshed. She didn't hold any grudges, but it was the fact that the Sand betrayed them. Even though they were allies, she had almost snickered at the thought after betraying them that Orochimaru went and betrayed them. It was like this in this world. You can never really trust anyone with their back. No one. How long are you going to stay here? I plan to return tomorrow morning, said Temari as she pulled out a scroll and handed it to Snazzy. She just had to give Snazzy the scroll, that was her mission. Please see me before you leave, said Snazzy. I need to make preparations for your departure. I will have a team take you back to the Sand, she said in a serious tone. Seems like she would not explain her reason or why she was doing it. Temari frowned, but she wasn't going to ask. She knew why. Someone was watching her ever since she stepped foot in this village. I was told that Naruto was in the Sand, said Snazzy. As Temari nodded. He stayed with us for a month, but after receiving a message from Jiraiya-sama, as she was going to tell her that Naruto was the one that escorted her back. Unless the Hokage leader towards that, I'm going to ask some questions. You don't have to feel pressure to answer them, or be forced to answer them, she said. She started calmly. Who did he spend time with? Was he alone? What was he doing? Temari saw the look on Snazzy's face. She was worried. It was like a mother asking about her child. This woman did care for Naruto, she really did. But Naruto never spoke about it. With the way he avoided the leaf and kept silence on the subject, you would have never expected there was people that care about him so much. As she realized she shouldn't keep the woman worried. I spent time with him. I was the one that was actually training with him. I saw him every day. Snazzy's eyes brightened at that. I only hear things from Jiraiya, but not from a set of eyes who have trained with him as well. When he left here, things weren't great. That is why I allowed him to go on a training trip. How close did you get to him? I don't know how, but we talked, said Temari. You see, Naruto never had a lot of people growing up around him, and trusting people was a bit difficult for him. But when he got into a teammate, he trusted his teammates, they were friends. But the person that shared his loneliness betrayed him and nearly killed him. Temari no understood things. That is why he looked so welcoming, and at the same moment, not very close. She could only think that it was Uchiha that did it. What a horrible thing to do. But still, Naruto did not look like someone that had trust issues. He talked to people and he smiled. He hadn't pushed her away. No, he did not. Temari nodded. He's fine. After spending time with him, I can't really say there's something that is bothering him. She would not tell Snazzy that he didn't talk about many things that was personal. She would not say that he never brought up Konoha or the Uchiha that nearly killed him and betrayed his trust. I want some details, said Snazzy. It was more like an order than a request. Temari simply nodded. She wanted to see how the experience affected her. She didn't tell her everything though. She kept some details to herself. Natty released a sigh of relief. It seems like he's doing well. I was really worried, she said. She looked down towards the scroll in her hand. It was a blessing that Naruto had befriended Temari. She was going to be the Kazekage's sister. If things were not going smoothly, she could demand a political marriage that could bind the innocent from doing anything, and she could also silence some people on her side who was against the way that she had done things for peace. But she was just gonna wait and see. Time skip. A couple days later, as Naruto walked into the room that he had rented in this gambling town, he found himself staring into Sharingan's eyes. Those damn eyes. He really didn't like them. He knew this person. This was the elder brother of Sasuke. He should be afraid. He should be worried about the motives of this person. But he was not. He was only curious, but he did not show it on his face. He walked past the man and settled beside the window. Jiraiya was in town. It was only a moment before the man found him. Maybe he was already on his way. Itachi watched Naruto carefully. He should be surprised by the blonde reaction towards his presence. But he was not. He didn't even raise a single eyebrow. He just watched the blonde walk past him. If Itachi did not see Naruto, he couldn't even tell that he was there. The silence. The nothingness as he passed. He didn't have much time though Jiraiya was coming. As they speak. I want to speak with you, Naruto-kun, he said. You have my ears, said Naruto, as he didn't look at the man. But I find it interesting that a S-rank criminal would be interested in a genin. I think we both know that you're more than that, Itachi said. I once served in Konoha as an envoy, and the third, trust me very well. I know, said Naruto. I did see you once or twice. He did speak very highly after you, even after the massacre. But then again, he was still fond of Orochimaru. Despite everything, like I said, you have my ears. But I might not respond. If I want to get an answer from you, I would be forceful, Itachi said. This is about Sasuke-kun. As Naruto said nothing, I know you were friends with him. I know things happened, and he ended up joining the ranks of Orochimaru. He's training now, trying to gain power. You once tried to get him to return to Konoha. Would you ever try again? Why? Said Naruto. It seems like you no longer consider my friend, Itachi said. As Naruto said nothing for a few seconds, before he tapped his finger on his chin. I can't really figure out why you're asking. I don't even know why you left him alive. I was thinking, perhaps you just couldn't kill your younger brother. He shook his head. Sasuke decided that joining Orochimaru was the best possible cause for him. He wanted his revenge, whether Orochimaru allowed him or not. That is his problem. Be happy if he killed Orochimaru. But I would not thank him. Orochimaru once tried to take my body. If he's gonna use the same technique as he did on me, he will fail, Itachi said. I merely wanted to confirm if you were still willing to save my brother after everything. At this point, even if he does get his revenge, he's going to dive deeper and deeper into darkness. A man who massacres his entire clan should not care. Now should he, said Naruto. You look rather concerned. You should not be so concerned after all. That is not the Itachi the world knows, said Naruto. Itachi narrowed his eyes. Those words were dangerous. Naruto has grown. He did observe the blonde a bit. He had been close to Sasuke after all. The way they partied was not great. But he did not expect the blonde to be so cold. What do you want from me, Itachi? I don't think you came here for Sasuke. I've been around people, and when they want something, you can sense it. The Bichu inside of him seemed to appreciate his point for hating those damn eyes that can bang someone under their will. I wanted to confirm something, Itachi said. Did you? Said Naruto. Itachi did not respond to that question. He asked a question of his own. As far as I am concerned, you are the only other Uzumaki that has no connection to the revival of the Uzumaki Clan. Have they not approached you? I find it curious if they have not. Have you been searching for the Uzumaki, Itachi? Said Naruto. Itachi's eyes were locked on Naruto, looking for a slight twitch or something, but there was absolutely nothing. You're not answering my question, Itachi said. You ignore mine. Why should I answer yours? Said Naruto. I have been to Uzu, and I have traveled around a lot, but I haven't come across any Uzumakis, Itachi said. The world is big, Itachi. The survivors of the Uzumaki clan scattered after the destruction of their home village. It does make you wonder though, Itachi, said Naruto. What? Itachi said. Itachi blinked as he realized something. Naruto did not answer his question, and he was steering him away from it. As something was wrong. He has changed too much. But Itachi did not know. Uzu would not show him anything. Nothing. He got nothing from them. He didn't know what was going on. Uzu and Konoha were like brother and sister, and yet none of the survivors took refuge in a hidden leaf, said Naruto. It is quite the puzzle, isn't it? Said Naruto. It is. I will also reveal a little bit of secret. Since you don't want to cooperate with me, I am indeed a criminal who massacred my clan. But I still kept tabs with the third. Yes, we kept in contact. You see, when he came to you, he did not trust any of the other Anvu. He came to me. I was there. When you both visited Uzo. Well, that is interesting, said Naruto. At least no one in Konoha knows about it. What else do you know, he asks. Admittedly, nothing. You were interested in Uzo back then, but now, there's nothing Itachi said. Why? He then paused. My time is up. But we shall talk again, hopefully. The Uchiha then disappeared from the room after those words left his lips. The next second, Jiraiya burst down the door. I am not paying for that damage, said Naruto. As Jiraiya looked over Naruto, there wasn't a scratch on him. As he looked around, he was late. But Naruto was fine. Itachi was a part of the mercenary group. Why would he come here to speak to Naruto? I didn't even book the room. I can't pay for that, Jiraiya said. I wasn't even here. You will regret many things, Sensei, said Naruto. What took you so long? I got held back by someone, Jiraiya said. Let me guess, a young, beautiful lady. Then you realized that she was being manipulated. You know you can be remarkable sometimes, Sensei, said Naruto. You're only saying that because you didn't see her, Naruto, Jiraiya said. I'm sure. I wouldn't behave the same way as you, said Naruto. How was your work, said Naruto. There was no harm done with Itachi, so they would discuss the issue some other time. Fruitful, Jiraiya said. But I heard you got close to a certain blonde, he said. Yes, Temari is a delightful woman. But that was that, said Naruto. Jiraiya shook his head. I don't have to teach you how to get close, since you already know the trade. But if you just watch the birds, they would eventually fly off. You must make a move. You're still too young to talk about marriage, but you need to have fun, Naruto. You mean you're kind of fun, said Naruto. I'm not a boring person, in case you forgot. You know, I'm just more controlled than you. So he could sit at a bar and talk to a woman and laugh, drink, but he would end it there. Jiraiya could say that Naruto knew the body of a woman, but he never went more in depth. Snavy was asking about you. I'm sure she does, as she does in her letters. You have this tendency of leaving them open, so I can comment on them, said Naruto. And yet you don't, you pretend like you don't see anything, said Jiraiya. I do not pretend anything, said Naruto, I just keep my thoughts to myself. Besides, if you don't ask for my opinion, I can't give it. How long do we have? Well, she didn't tell me. And I'm fine with the way things are. I failed to do so many things in your younger years. I'm watching you grow now and we're close. I'm happy with that. But we're still going back to Konoha, said Naruto. There was no emotion in his tone. Yes, said Jiraiya. We have to cover your fire training and Fox Jocker. We have to do missions for you to earn yourself more experience in battle. If the Toads are willing, you will learn Senjutsu. Well, that is quite the schedule, said Naruto. We can do fire and the Fox Jocker at the same time. It is my favorite thing to do too. Train and meals at one time. But since we do not know when our schedule will end, I guess we have no choice. Jiraiya nodded. He could work with that. Are we gonna talk about your skills in Fuinjutsu? He said in a serious tone. I usually don't push for answers, but if we're gonna focus on the fox, I need to know what you can do. As Naruto glanced at the streets, this wasn't his first time here. He came here to look for Snavy back then. What of my skills, Sensei, Naruto asked. I put it wrongly, Jiraiya said. What is your knowledge regarding Fuinjutsu? You might not be able to apply the art practically, but Sensei gave you many books about Fuinjutsu to read. He even had me hand over scrolls I obtained from Minato. He wouldn't tell me what it was for, but I suspect it was for you. He did give me things to read. He had me consume as much knowledge about Fuinjutsu that I could through my head. He said it was fine even if I didn't understand. I just had to consume the knowledge. When I am alone sitting like this, I could search my mind and study the structures of seal. Since it was difficult, it would be enough to preoccupy my time. He had two reasons for this. He said it was my legacy, the legacy of the Uzumaki. The second was, he wanted me to think about something useful. He didn't want me to focus on my thoughts of loneliness. At the same time, it was frustrating and hard. But I still filled my mind with those diagrams, those drawings. Jiraiya was silent for a long minute as he absorbed those words. He knew about Naruto's habit. He knew the blonde could sit by the window for hours without moving. Why haven't you attempted learning it? Just because your mother was good at it, doesn't mean you'll be naturally good at it as well. Those were the words that the old man used to tell me, said Naruto. Jiraiya sighed. Do you know the secret of the necklace that Tsunade gave you? It is a sealing technique, I know. But it can easily be crushed because it worked best with Mokidan. It is the first jewel after all. What of it? That is just another measure we have, just in case you lose control. But I do not know what it takes for it to activate. It did not activate on 4 tails. There were still 5 of my tails missing, said Naruto. We will work something out. You still have those tags, and they're useful. Jiraiya nodded at that, but still he was looking for something more. After all, those seals require one to get close. And in that state, getting close to Naruto was rather difficult. There had to be something that could activate automatically. or through a hand sign, he would think of drawing up something. As, at this stage though, Jiraiya could only think of a chakra suppressing seal. How was the situation in his hand? Asked Jiraiya. Ah yes, Gar is gonna be made Kazekage. I do not know when they will do the coronation, but you can rest assured he's a good person that will not think of doing what his father did. I think by now they already know that your village is weak. I didn't actually think they would make him Kage, Jiraiya said, with a shake of his head. He is still just a brat and the stand is a mess. The last time I checked, the Wing Daimyo was no longer funding it. Their failed invasion hasn't even earned them new allies. That may be true, but Gar is willing, and he has a lot to learn, and a lot to prove. You thought they would put Baki, said Naruto. Jiraiya nodded. He was the Kazekage right-hand man. Whatever he did, Baki was in it as well. Come on, Jiraiya says. He got to his feet. Let's go out. The day is still in his diapers, and we got to blow off some steam before we get to training. We can stay here for a couple of days before we depart. Once we go to it, we will spend at least 2 months away from people. We should stock up for those days. As Naruto got out of the window before pausing, if you misbehave, I will walk away. Jiraiya grinned. I'll be on my best behavior, he said. In your best behavior, you drool from your nose, while peeping through some hole of naked woman, said Naruto. That's called research, Jiraiya said. You should try reading my books. You have all the copies, even the ones I have yet to release. I have written one. I don't need to read them. You do know that your book is for perverts, right? Jiraiya shrugged, as he created a clone to pick up Naruto things as he picked up the door that he broken down. How sad was the old hag, said Naruto. Very. You do need to write to her. Why haven't you? Asked Jiraiya. She is like the parent in this situation, as she has not write to me either. Tell her to write something to me, and I will respond. You know, sometimes people think that you're just being ignorant, but you're so frustrating and simple at sometimes. She'll probably hit you. Oh, we can't have that. Where are you taking me? Said Naruto. Just gonna get a drink. I haven't seen you get drunk before. Let's see who gets drunk first, between me or you. That is not a fair competition, Sensei. You are a professional, and I'm a mere student. I just started drinking a year ago. Well, if you cannot handle it, just say so. But I'll still consider it my win, said Jiraiya. As Naruto looked at the man for a long minute. Let us make a wager then, he said. No, said Jiraiya. I'm not doing that again. Last time I ended up walking in a hot spring naked. A woman, bathed in place. And they kicked the crap out of me. You were confident that you could win. If I had lost, I would have been the one doing it, said Naruto. I doubt it. You have a smooth tongue when you want to use it. You could have ended up convincing them that you truly thought it was a man's place. You overestimate my abilities, Sensei. As Jiraiya thought about it. Alright, fine. What do you want to wager, he asks. Meanwhile, the hidden stone. What took you so long, Onki asked. I called you an hour ago. As Kurosaki walked into his office. No. She shook her head. It was 10 minutes ago. Are you losing your sense of time, old man? Can't you even see? I should get a bigger clock for you. Are you even hearing me right now? Oniki frowned. If you keep talking like that, I am not going to retire. Well, it doesn't matter, she said. You're going to keep the bucket very soon anyway. He didn't bother to keep up with her. I have a mission for you, he said. She smiled hearing that. She has been holed up in the village. It would be nice to go out and do a mission. Hasn't been anything worthy of her skills. If her grandfather was sending her, it had to be something challenging. What do you want me to do? I want you to go to a town in the Fire Nation, book a room, and a certain man will approach, and give you a scroll containing information. Do not lose it. Return immediately upon receiving it. Kurosaki frowned. You know we have messengers for that kind of mission, right? There's a danger that this person is being followed. If I send someone else, they might not return, and the information is also very important. It affects our security. When you leave, please stop by Han and tell him I wish to see him. There's something going on, isn't it? She asks. Ghosts of the past, he said. I will explain once you have returned. Go and get the information, he said. Meanwhile, at the hidden sound, as the days piled up, his master was getting worse. He was coughing up blood, and he had bandaged up most of his body as he had to be in his room. It was almost pitiful. His once active and flexible master had been turned into something pitiful, something so fragile. Orochimaru was strong. He was powerful. Kabuto knew that better than anyone. But now he had been reduced to just a coughing, pain man who could not do things himself. It was a traumatic fall. But Kabuto knew his master would rise up once more. Once he took Sasuke's body, he would be unstoppable. He would become the master that Kabuto had come to respect. But for now, he could only watch the pain of his master. He couldn't do anything against it as he entered Orochimaru's room carrying the tray. As the man was sweating badly, a normal person could not tolerate it, but his master could. Your situation is getting worse, Orochimaru-sama. The body had given way far faster than they anticipated. We will have to carry the procedure ahead. There is no need to worry, Kabuto. There's something that can cure this, but it's only a temporary fix. You will have to leave here to get it. Kabuto raised an eyebrow. Orochimaru trusted him with all of his research. And this was the first time he was hearing of something like this. Should I leave everything you'll need? Yes, Orochimaru said. Behind my throne, there's 3 scrolls. Take the smaller one. It has everything that you will need. Yes. How is Naruto training progressing so far? The mysterious blonde who's been trained by his former teammate. Smoothly. But there's still a lot I don't know. He's still traveling with Jiraiya-sama. Their movements and activities are still covered. I said that we should keep his strength a secret from Sasuke-kun, but when you come back, we shall go out on a hunt. You're thinking of using him to try to awake Sasuke's Mangekyou, asked Kabuto. Orochimaru nodded. He didn't want to admit it, but it was unlikely for him to unlock it after he took Sasuke's body. Naruto-kun hates Sasuke now, but they were still friends. Sasuke might be able to awaken the Mangekyou after killing him. If it doesn't work out, it would be a good test of his strength. Would Jiraiya-sama allow them to fight? Asked Kabuto. They're not always together. We will just wait for that moment. Back at Tanzuka-gai, perhaps Jiraiya didn't want to displease him, but he wanted the axe, as Naruto could see it at the tip of the man's tongue. As he finally broke an axe. What? Did Itachi say to you, Naruto? Jiraiya asked. His eyes never left the blonde. His eyes were stern. He wasn't going to back down if Naruto said that he didn't want to talk about it. He needed to know what was going on. Yes, he needed to know. As Naruto glanced towards Jiraiya from the window, he had questions about Sasuke and Uso. It was rather curious. Why would a criminal be concerned about my thoughts if Uso approached me? Jiraiya narrowed his eyes. It was curious indeed. But Itachi's actions were always rather strange. Jiraiya could not understand what really motivated man. He couldn't figure him out. But then again, when he walked into the room, the Uchiha jumped out the back window. They never got a chance to meet, but he was looking forward to that meeting. That is indeed curious, Jiraiya said. What else did he ask you? Not much, said Naruto. After all, you showed up too quickly. He was interested in my answer though. But his time was already up because you arrived. But he didn't sound like a man that was obsessed with power though. And that was rather strange, given the reports and what he did to his clan. What if he's working with Uso? Jiraiya said. Itachi has an affiliation with the Akatsuki, but I do not know anything about it. I'm merely speculating, but it makes sense if he's acting on their behalf. Jiraiya thought that Uso was recruiting rogue shinobi to protect itself. There could not be powerful shinobi in the village, so they could be thinking about hiring shinobi to protect themselves. But he could be wrong. He didn't hear anything about that. Well, he's a powerful shinobi, but then again, you still question his motives, said Naruto. Jiraiya nodded. What did he say about Sasuke? Strange, said Naruto. He asked if I was still willing to fight for him, to bring him back to the good side. I got the impression that he doesn't actually hate his younger brother. From what I hear, he loved his younger brother. It could be that he left him alive because he just could not kill him. But that still leaves many questions, said Jiraiya. And zero answers, said Naruto. That is true, Jiraiya said. What did you say about Sasuke? Are you still willing to bring back the Hidden Leaf? As Naruto stood there for a second before he spoke. Why? That is the same response I gave Itachi. And I'm giving it to you, Sensei. Jiraiya was frustrated because there was nothing, no emotion. He was neither angry or calm, there was just nothing. He was your friend, Naruto. You cannot erase the past that he shared with you. Regardless, everything, the past, will always be there. Regardless of what happened, Sasuke is a former Leaf Shinobi, and the people there want him back. If you are ordered to bring him back, would you say why? When a shinobi is given a scroll and told to deliver it, does he ask why? Or what is in the scroll, said Naruto. Jiraiya frowned. Exactly, Jiraiya, said Naruto. I will carry out my duty. Itachi was asked for my thoughts on the matter. If it was my choice, what would I do? But you did not answer his question, and you did not answer mine. All of your responses about it. You just asked another question of your own. I gave you a reason. He was your colleague. Now you can choose to ignore that or accept it. I have no attachment to the Uchiha, said Naruto. Honestly, his attachment to everyone in Konoha was fragile. He never got too close because he knew it was a fleeting moment. As Naruto finally spoke up, I have not really thought about him since he departed, Sensei. At this point, Sasuke is irrelevant to my training and my future. Regardless how anyone look at it, those words were just cold. Well, I hope I don't become irrelevant, said Jiraiya. As Naruto looked towards the man, you can be miserable sometimes, but it is a fact, Sasuke and I were friends. As Naruto looked towards the window, it wasn't what he wanted. He played the role of a genin for too long back then, and he got attached. It was his mistake of becoming a friend. Perhaps people thought that he was miserable after Sasuke left. Yes, he was miserable, but not because of the reason they thought. A whole nother reason was there. What of Konoha? You never talked about it. There isn't much to talk about. That aside, I didn't really want to focus on the leaf. I just want to get my head straight into training and forget about Konoha. It doesn't work like that, Naruto. Konoha is home, and you have to think about it. Perhaps, but the village is not under attack. I don't see the reason to think about it that much. Are you worried, Sensei? Naruto asks. Do you think if the Uzumakis come knocking, I will leave Konoha, said Naruto. Jiraiya was not that concerned about it, but he did think about it, as Naruto would have every reason to depart the leaf. After all, Konoha did not do him any favors. Minato would have been disappointed. The leaf was supposed to be home, but he did not treat Naruto as home, because he was a host of the Kyuubi, so had his ancestrals. His mother came from the land. That should be more of a home to him than Konoha. Don't say like that, Naruto, said Jiraiya. I understand, but there's people in the leaf asking questions. I'm a shinobi of the leaf, so it's natural that I'm concerned. As Naruto said nothing for a while, as Jiraiya waited. Well, you shouldn't be worried. We still don't know if Uzu is an ally or an enemy, said Naruto. You should not be concerned there. For one, is worried about that. So now they want us to look for Sasuke. If I get whereabouts about his position, we should move. Because any time now or tomorrow might take over his body. But that is what he wants. He's willing to sell his soul to the devil for power. He's an unstable, spoiled child. It can't be helped. So, you won't have a problem, said Jiraiya. Not at all, said Naruto. Mission's a mission. And we can't have Orochimaru becoming all-powerful. When do we move? I'm still waiting on some information, Jiraiya said. You know, I feel there's a storm coming. And it's making me rather nervous. I feel like any moment now, the peace treaty that was currently going on will break. Well, that is why we must be prepared for anything, said Naruto. Jiraiya nodded. I'm going to see one of my contacts. You want to come? He asked. I've had enough activities for a day. I wish to stay in. I will go out tomorrow to stretch my muscles. As Jiraiya left the room. As Naruto relaxed in the silence, the peace. Time skip. As Naruto was in front of a clear field, just away from Tansukagai, as there was some markings on the ground. Naruto didn't need to continue more training. Manuals, seals, they were all in his head memorized. The third that made sure his mind was a field of seals. Sometimes it made him kind of crazy. Sometimes whenever he closed his eyes, he could only see the marks, the tattoos. They were complex. He would obsess for days trying to untangle them. At least spending time thinking about seals that drive away all the demons in his head. The laughter of the villagers, the mocking, the contempt. Because the role that he was playing of a shinobi of hidden leaf, he had to forget about Jutsu for a while. Having a brush and a paper would cause too much question to arise. But since Jiraiya brought up the subject, it was safe to start showing more studies. Space-time ninjutsu, a rather complex art, wonderful to move from one place to another in a blink of an eye. Father had truly made himself famous by taking the second Hokage jutsu into another level. People praised Minato for a genius, but Tobirama was a true genius. He created so many jutsus, most of them forbidden in the hidden leaf. Kunai was thrown towards him from behind. As he reached and caught it before it could hit him, he looked at it for a moment before he threw it back behind him. There were few peoples that had things against him, so he concluded this was Konoha people. He had to ask. Though he doubted they would talk, he had to ask. As he glanced towards the four masked men behind him, they were disturbing his training. One of them launched towards him. As Naruto watched the man coming towards him, he felt bored, just watching the man's slow movements. The masked man brought a kunai towards his face. As Naruto sidestepped the attack and twisted around, lifted his right hand and slammed it on the man's shoulder. The man was knocked off balance. You're too slow. You need to increase your speed, Naruto said calmly, and twisted back around as he lifted his right foot. As Naruto watched the attack coming, he stood still. He'd be hit on the shoulder, so he jumped back as he avoided the kick. The moment his feet touched the ground, another masked man flashed above him as he swung his sword downwards, aimed towards Naruto's right shoulder. As Naruto leapt up in the air, passing the blade. As he twists, he slammed his feet into the man's right shoulder, launching him backwards before flipping and landing gracefully. Firestyle. Fireball Jutsu. A fireball was aimed at him from behind. It was rather pathetic. He had seen something bigger from Jiraiya. Hell, even Sasuke did better than this. He waved his right hand and snapped his finger as the flame died out. In the blink of an eye, neither of you are strong, said Naruto. It is quite pathetic for shinobis who wear masks. Let us end this, he said. Perhaps it was being disrespectful, though he was strong. He has been training with Jiraiya and he wasn't exactly weak. But he should have just destroyed my first glance, shouldn't he? Neither of them attacked him, they just watched him. He pulled out kunais as he threw them. All of them with his left arm as he shot forward. The first one tilted his head as he dodged a kunai. As he launched a fist towards Naruto's face. As Naruto's hand became coated in wind as he sliced. He ripped right through the man's elbow. It wasn't even a sound from the man as he jumped back. As Naruto pulled another kunai as he channeled wind chakra through it and threw it. It burst through the back of the man's neck. As the man dropped down dead, another one appeared in front of him. His feet already came in towards Naruto's head. As Naruto twisted his body and raised his wing blade, the blade sliced right through the man's left leg, just above his knee, turned as another wind blade sliced right through the man's shoulder as blood gushed out of him. 2 down, 2 more to go. The other 2 charged towards him. As Naruto stood there, it was like he was waiting for a very long time. They appear at his side and swing their blades. They slice into Naruto's flesh, but he turned into a cloud of smoke. He flashed behind the one that attacked him from left and grabbed the man back of the head and threw him into his colleague. He shifted as the man pierced right through his colleague to get him, as Naruto did the same with his wind blade. As his attack pierced through both of them, as he threw the colleague off and grabbed the last one remaining. As he raised the man up in the air, "Foundation," he said. "I find inconvenience that after Itachi left, you guys appeared. Is Itachi in contact with Danzo? Did he threaten your master with intel? Are they working together?" The man said nothing. "Can't talk," said Naruto. "I really don't have the time to torture you." As the man had the gash, it didn't completely rip through him. What happened to his colleague? "Take the pieces of your comrades and go," said Naruto. "Go tell Danzo I wish he not do this again." As Naruto dropped the man towards the ground and walked towards he was sitting, he then sat back down. What was he focused on again? Yes, space-time ninjutsu. The juice that he had was the internet the second created. It was not for battle. It was made to travel long distances. He still burned a lot of chakra using it though. He needed to find a way to not burn so much chakra. He couldn't test anything now, because ever since he became a genin of the hidden leaf, he deactivated all of his seals that he was attached to. Because he had to play the role of a genin after all. To be able to work on it, he would have to activate all of his seals. He couldn't do that, it was dangerous. It would attract too many questions. He rubbed away all the joints on the ground as he closed his eyes and decided to meditate. After an hour or so, Jiraiya walked in. "Something happened here," he said as he looked around. "Your timing sucks, Sensei," said Naruto. "I was still busy." "Do you also come early?" said Naruto. It took a moment for Jiraiya to get Naruto words. "I knew you were no innocent," he said when he finally got them. "You act like you have no interest in women. But you are no innocent," he said. "I never claimed I was innocent, pervert-san. I just have my days. I do not know what is wrong with you. Maybe you're trying too hard to be loved because someone refused to love you. Or you're just that much of a pervert," said Naruto. "Either way, you should not read too much into my actions. For me, it has to do with convenience and desire. I'm surprised you have desires. Usually, you don't show desire in anything except for training. Even so, you're never too excited about anything. Everyone has a desire. Everyone dreams. I have dreams. I just choose not to make them public." "And what are those dreams?" asked Jiraiya. As Naruto thought about that, but he did not respond to Jiraiya's question, something did happen. "Masked man attack from Konoha," he said. Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. "Seriously, can you describe the mask?" As Naruto did. "Yes, they're indeed from Konoha. What do you know about Danzo?" "The third, former teammate. Someone who considered himself as a rival, but could never hold a candle to the third. He warned me, if someone called Danzo approaches me, I should come to him immediately and never talk to Danzo. I trusted the old man, so I never asked too many questions," said Naruto. "Danzo lead organization called the Foundation. He has done many bad things in the dark that he said that the Hokage doesn't have the heart to do. Things that show that his actions are murky and unworthy. He has his own agenda. Some of them indeed helped Konoha, but Sensei say that he was useful, so he never got rid of him. But still, the man is not to be trusted. When you were younger, he fought, he pushed and pushed, for you to be trained as a weapon, to fight and serve Konoha only. His forces abandon all of their emotions. That is what he teach them, to forget everything, because nothing but tools." Naruto sighed as he looked up in the sky. "This power inside of me does attract all kind of vultures, doesn't it? The Kyuubi is the strongest Biju, and control over its power mean that you have the most powerful weapon, has an unlimited supply of chakra." "I was being tested," said Naruto. "Probably," Jiraiya said. "Did you give them a good spanking?" "No," said Naruto. "Are you going to warn the old hag?" "Can you stop calling her that?" said Jiraiya. As Naruto looked towards the man. "When we arrive in Konoha, I will sweep her off her feet and call her a princess. Would that make you happy?" Jiraiya tried to imagine how Slender would react to that. "You know what? Try it," he said with a grin. "You're being a pervert again," said Naruto. Jiraiya shook his head. "Of course I have to warn her. Danzo is dangerous. And bad news. I will step on his neck if he's trying something." There had to be a reason that man was making a move now. Jiraiya did not believe that he just wanted to see how capable Naruto was. "I guess he's also a dark force that the Sand was concerned about," said Naruto. "You didn't say anything about that," Jiraiya said. "You never said that the Sand was worried about something happening in Konoha." "Oh, I did not? It must have slipped my mind when I was coming back. But if Princess Navi is doing things, there is anything to worry about, unless Danzo tapped into the village council. The Sand Council, I mean. Don't think he'll go that far. He could plan for something to happen to Temari and blame it on any other village though. But that sounds like work. Danzo is work, Jiraiya said. In the third war, he was pushing for Konoha to trample the stone and take over. Village was willing to talk at that point, but he didn't want it. He wanted the stone destroyed. I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to sabotage him. Jiraiya paused. I thought that you'd show some concern for Temari, he said. Perhaps, said Naruto, but I have to believe that people in Konoha are not ignorant. And the Sand is aware. So, it should be fine. Jiraiya shook his head. What should he expect? After all, he wasn't even sure if Sasuke trying to kill him concerned Naruto anymore. It was like certain things just didn't bother him at all. Guess what, said Jiraiya, changing the subject. What, said Naruto? The Tsuchikage granddaughter is in town. You have to go and speak to her. More schemes by Jiraiya when it came to collecting information and data. The Sannin really go all out. Why can't you speak to her? Obviously, you want to find out something about her and the hidden stone. Well, I don't want to go anywhere close to her, said Jiraiya. No, young girls sometimes don't like older and experienced men crawling up to them. Besides, it would be more interesting with you speaking to her. Minato wasn't a famous person in the hidden stone. They held a grudge for his actions, but that should be over by now, don't you think? Jiraiya nodded. They won't have anything against you, but you keep near here long like that, it seems like you'll be turning into him. The outside world never knew of Konoha Jinjulke. Even now they don't know, but there are things happening and we need to know what those are. I doubt I'll get that much speaking to her like this, said Naruto as he stared at the man. Are you trying to fix me up with her? He asked. And what would be the problem if I was? I don't find it amusing, said Naruto. What is she even doing here? Well, one of my contacts is a stone spy, and she's here to meet him. After meeting him, she will leave the town. So you need to speak to her today. I don't want to lose the opportunity. Are you sure my performance is that interesting, said Naruto. I'll be watching, Jiraiya said. Don't, said Naruto. It will be uncomfortable, knowing that a perverted hermit is giggling with his notebook, thinking about the parents and harms that you'll be creating for me. That won't be a bad idea, Jiraiya said. I won't watch. But I still want a detailed report. Since when have I ever given you a detailed report, said Naruto. You're gonna have to stop doing that, said Jiraiya. We shall see, said Naruto. When? Are we leaving? We have to wait for Kakashi. He's coming here with something from Snavi. After that, we'll disappear. What were you working on, Jiraiya asked. Before I came here, I first stopped by somewhere to fetch my armor. I was preparing things. In our next training session, I will be wearing it. Time skip. 2 hours later, Kurosaki, the granddaughter of Tsuchikage. She had short black hair, very attractive. She carried herself like a noble kunoichi. Then again, she was on the front seat to replace Unki once he retired from his position. But the way that things was going, he didn't look like he wanted to retire anytime soon. The third had find out everything about the current Kages and their power. In his prime, Naruto feel like none of the other Kages could rival the third in his time. But he did wonder if the old man was pitted against the first or the second. How would he stack up? Shaking his head, Naruto reminded himself where he was, in a bar. Shinobi's like this place. As Naruto picked up his bottles and walked over to Kurosaki, she was sitting over the corner. She was obviously looking for someone. Kurosaki looked up when the blonde walked over towards her. She saw his headband, it was hidden by the blonde hair. But she saw it was Konoha. She frowned. She wasn't looking forward to deal with Leaf Shinobis. Now, not at a place like this, but this was the Fire Nations. Leaf Shinobis could not be avoided. When did she last saw a man like this? Blonde hair and blue eyes, yes. The fourth Hokage, a very famous man. Konoha worshipped the man. The stone was bitter. That one man was able to force them into submitting. You just didn't think of Konoha Yellow Flash, didn't you? Said Naruto. A small smile on his lips. She blinked. I just did, she said. I bet people who have seen him will be thinking the same, said Naruto. Can I join you? No, she said. I won't take much of your time, Kurosaki, said Naruto, as he looked directly in her eyes. And I'll tell you a little secret that not even Konoha knows, if you let me sit. Kurosaki frowned. He knew her name. You can join me, she said. What's the secret? Naruto settled down. He noticed, although she had a bottle in front of her, she wasn't drinking it. Naruto Uzumaki, a shinobi from the hidden leaf, he said, as he pointed his forehead. Uzumaki, she said. I was surprised to see someone from that clan here, not to mention a shinobi from the hidden leaf. Ah yes, Uzumaki. My mother was Uzumaki, born in Uzu. Because of the friendship with the hidden leaf, she moved there at a young age. Kurosaki nodded. Why did you decide to join me, she asked. You are a kunoichi of the hidden stone, and you're sitting here alone. It gives you away. Besides, you're a rather attractive woman. I can't ignore you. She snorted. Easy picking, she said. Not at all, said Naruto. Do you think I came for that? If you want easy pickings, he turned and pointed at the woman that was drinking heavily. You would go for that. He turned back around. You would not go for a woman that is not even drinking her alcohol. And her defenses are tight as a seal that can even hold back a Jinjulke. That's a funny way of describing someone defensive, she said. But if your defense is not up, scums walk all over you. And I don't have time for that. I would think so, said Naruto. Perhaps you just enjoy the challenge. You can never be too sure When it comes to shinobis, people were just sucker for punishments. Who knows, said Naruto. Kurosaki was frustrated. His smile. She couldn't read it. She couldn't read a damn thing off the blonde. Not a damn thing. What was the secret you want to tell me? Oh, truth is, I didn't really have any secret. I just wanted to sit with you, said Naruto. She shook her head. So you're Uzumaki. Any connections with Uza, she asked. Picked up one of the bottle and took a few gulps. Hit the sweet spot, he said, smiling. What are you doing alone? People come here with boyfriends, friends, to have funs. You came to drink, you are not drinking. And since you're far from home, we can rule out any friends. You fall in love with a man, far away from home. But which one is your type? I figure he has to be strong, good looking. Or perhaps you like women. What? She said. She looked baffled. As Naruto laughed. I'm just messing with you, he said. I just want to see your reaction. But I'm curious. Do you have someone you love, he asked. What does that have to do with anything? Well, I said you were an attractive woman. No, she said. Then, would you like to be friends with me? Or maybe more than that? Even a friend is better. I don't know you, but I want to know you. Isn't that wonderful? I'm sure as Stitch Guy granddaughter, you don't get a lot of friends. And boys are probably intimidated to come even close. You must be thinking you don't have time for it because you have to think about your career. But wasn't it the same for your grandfather? It's also worse for him back then, because he lived in a time of war. But he still made time for family. He had one of your parents, and your parents had you. It is only natural for you to continue with the cycle. But that alone is not enough. You should ask your grandfather why he had a family in the times of war. What do you know about happiness, she said. You seem rather happy gulping down the alcohol. As Naruto merely smiled, a sad smile it seems, a miserable person who just wants to bring happiness in his life. What do you say to my offer for friendship? I'll tell you this. I actually look like Konoha Yellow Flash because I'm his son. Shh, it's a secret. Don't tell anyone, okay? So what do you say? Don't you want to befriend someone like me? Given the history with Hidden Stone and the fact that you're Uzumaki, I'd rather kill you than befriend you. Better, become close to me and decide whether I should be killed or befriend. You can do that while you're close to me. That makes sense, she said. You have yourself a deal. As he tilted his head and just looked at her. Before she could speak, he spoke. You have a beautiful smile, he said. You asked if I have any connection with Uzu. I can't answer that. Nor can I tell you if I can use my father's jutsu. We will talk when we meet again. We're gonna be friends, right? Kurosaki frowned. That was a disappointment. She had hoped that he would start singing like a bird because he was drinking. If he continued drinking, he would end up getting drunk. There was no harm in entertaining him for a bit longer to see if he will sing. So, she said. As Naruto spoke, I have said a couple of things about myself. Why don't you start? We can hit a battlefield if you think that is dull. I hear that hitting blades with someone, getting to know them a bit better. Do you really believe that, she asks. If you close your heart, people won't get to it, said Naruto. You, Kurosaki, won't be a friend of mine unless you see my skills and decide to change your mind. I do believe a man and woman can understand each other better when they do a bit of foreplay. And when you hit the sensitive spots, a bit of secrets always spill out. You're a pervert, aren't you, she said. I merely state what I believe. So tell me, what is it gonna be, said Naruto. All talk, she said. She rather that, to get him drink and drunk. Have a rule though, said Naruto, if you lie and I spot it. He pushed the saucer towards her. You take a drink. It wouldn't be fun if I get drunk all alone. Now would it, said Naruto. Well, she had no intention of telling the whole truth. And how would he tell? Fine, she said. But guys, the end episode right here. If you want to see next parts, do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notifications as they posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in social media platform. And also stay in tune for the rest of the what ifs coming your way, and I hope you guys enjoy each and every one of them. But for now, I'm out of here, guys. See you guys soon. Peace.